Joining us now is Kelli Waite. She is the Director of Admissions and Programs at the Rose Hill Center with us on the MegaCast. Kelli, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about the Rose Hill Center. It's located in Holly. What sort of services are provided over there?
So Rose Hill Center is located in Holly, Michigan, and it's kind of off the beaten path. It's on over 400 acres. We have several different programs there. The main one that you hear about is the residential rehabilitation program. And that program is sort of the beginning steps for getting help with your mental health disorder. So when you come in the door, when you pull on the campus, rather, you'll see beautiful greenhouses, you'll see a big farm, you'll see a really pretty farmhouse, and then you can drive further up the boulevard and you'll see all of the different residential houses that we have. And people come there to gain vocational skills, to learn how to manage their symptoms, to learn how to take medication appropriately, and many other things to manage their mental health.
We're joined by Kelli Waite, Director of Admissions and Programs at the Rose Hill Center, joining us today on the MegaCast. And so the COVID-19 pandemic has added a lot of additional stressors to people's lives, even beyond those that were present before the pandemic, just because of the condition of the world that we live in. And so how do you suggest, or how's the Rose Hill Center suggest that people differentiate between what may be just a bout of stress or increased stress versus a chronic issue that may be something related to something up with their mental health?
Well, the good thing about mental health treatment is that you can get treatment for situational issues like COVID or a personal situational issue, or you can get treatment for those chronic illnesses. At Rose Hill Center, we treat people who have depression and anxiety, which are two of the main symptoms you're hearing from folks who are struggling due to the pandemic. However, it becomes chronic when you've had it over a period of time and it's affecting your ability to function. So really what we say is everybody should be getting treatment. Everybody should be talking to someone if you're experiencing any symptoms at all. Your treatment team, regardless of who they are, will help you determine whether it's chronic illness or it's a situational issue and help you get the treatment that you need.
And then, so of course, over the last 20 months or so, while we've been in this pandemic, certainly after a few months into this crisis, mental health became much more of a topic of conversation. That stigma that's always sort of surrounded people having mental health issues or admitting that they may have some issues to address with their mental health isn't as prevalent as it was before the pandemic. Still kind of there in some ways and others, but certainly mental health has become something that's more of a focal point across the board in our society now than it was 20 months plus ago. But for a lot of people, that first step of either realizing or considering that they may have an issue that needs to be addressed, or some multiple issues that may need to be addressed, that can be a really tough first step. For individuals, what suggestions do you have, or does your organization have, in terms of them evaluating whether or not they may need some services, and then steps that they should take to be able to not only seek those services, but be honest about the way that they feel and their mental health condition?
Well, the pandemic has done a lot of things that aren't so great, but one of the silver lining things that's happened is that, like you said, the stigma has been reduced a little bit. We're talking about it a lot more. One of the biggest things is to talk to the people who are in your life. Talk to your family, your parents, your partners, your friends, your coworkers. If you notice that something is just a little off with you or feels a little different than it usually has, the people around you are noticing as well. And that might be a good indicator on whether or not you need to call someone else, call a therapist, talk to your doctor. Now they have, they're working on integrating mental health into primary care. So when you go see your doctor for a physical, you may be hearing more mental health related questions than you were before. And that's also another good starting point to getting hooked up with services that you may need.
We're joined by Kelli Waite. She's the Director of Admissions at the Rose Hill Center, joining us today on the MegaCast. And so for individuals, is it tougher for them generally from what you have noticed and from the standpoint of the mental health services community? For individuals, is it less common for them to be the ones that are usually the people that onset the seeking of treatment, or at least the consideration of seeking treatment? As you said, you suggested, having those conversations with people in your life about the way that you're feeling, especially if something feels a little bit off or feels a little bit different. Is it usually, how common is it for the person that is seeking mental health services to seek it out of their own consideration and self-reflection, as opposed to off of a conversation from someone else in their life?
Every person is different. There's going to be those folks who will come to you and say that they're not feeling okay, but there's also going to be a lot of people who will suffer in silence. They will look around and say, well, I don't have it as bad as this other person, or, things aren't going too bad, so I'm just going to try to power through. So I feel like it's probably a pretty good combination of reaching out to other folks, but also reaching out to the people in your life if you notice something is different, or they're struggling a bit more. A lot of times with mental illness, because it is illness that is based in your mind, it is really hard to accept treatment and to talk about your struggles and to admit to some of those things that are going on. So if you're somebody who's trying to support somebody who is struggling a little bit more than they were before, or experiencing symptoms that they weren't before, it's really important to just kind of be straightforward when you talk to them, but also do it in a non-judgmental manner. You want to make them feel safe to talk to you and feel like you're not judging what they have to say. A lot of times people won't say things because they fear that their problems aren't as big of a deal as they think they are, or people aren't going to think that, that they need help, or that they're that bad. The other thing is you want to use I statements. So instead of saying like, you need to go get treatment, or you need to talk to somebody, you could say something like, I feel like you might be struggling more than I've noticed in the past little bit. Can you tell me what's going on? Leave it open-ended questions and let them kind of come to you with what they're comfortable with. Because a lot of times they'll share little tidbits of things that are going on, but they're not going to tell you the big issues that they're struggling with.
We're joined by Kelli Waite. Kelli Waite. She is the Director of Admissions and Programs with the Rose Hill Center, joining us today on the MegaCast. And so for those that may be seeking mental health services on a more extensive level, or even on a more acute level, like you mentioned at the beginning of the interview with the Rose Hill Center, how do they go about seeking those services from your organization? Does it have to be a referral, or can people inquire about those services themselves?
So we have a website. It's called rosehillcenter.org, and most of the people who come to us have just seen our website, found us through Google, heard about us through other folks who have been touched by our organization in one way or another. And we have an admission line phone number on there, and you just call the number. You can also email in if you're not quite ready to talk to someone just yet, and we will reach back out to you. So yeah, you can just call us. You don't have to be referred.
Again, that website, as Kelli mentioned, is rosehillcenter.org, rosehillcenter.org. And so Rose, this morning, earlier on, we had ran an article from the Detroit Free Press about the increase, almost a 20% increase between April 2020 and April 2021 in drug overdoses. Often we see situations both where mental health issues can lead somebody into substance use or substance abuse issues, or vice versa. Over at Rose Hill Center, does your organization also provide mental health services to those that may be having additional substance use or abuse issues as well?
Yes, we do. So at Rose Hill Center, we have a co-occurring tract within our residential program, and the tract there has additional groups. We do lots of supportive groups. We do coping skills. We do different things throughout the program that help the person determine if they are doing something we call self-medicating to manage symptoms of mental illness that they haven't managed in healthier ways, or we figure out if the addiction came first and it's causing symptoms of mental illness. And then once we can figure that out, we can really map out a better path of treatment for that person and help them get back on the right track.
We're joined by Kelli Waite. She is the Director of Admissions and Programs over at the Rose Hill Center, joining us today on the MegaCast. And so we're approaching the holiday season. This time of the year, whether it be because of daylight saving time, the days and daylight being shorter, so to speak, during the days than it typically is over the summer and the spring months, or because of the holiday season, or in many cases because of both, do you tend to see during this time of the year an increase in the seeking of your mental health services over at the Rose Hill Center?
We do. And I feel like that's because when people have mental illness, one of the unfortunate side effects of what they're going through is that there becomes interpersonal issues with their family members or their support people. So people are asking them to seek treatment and they're not quite ready. People are noticing symptoms. One of the just inherent things that happens around the holidays is that you spend more time with your family and friends than you usually would. So some of these things come to light during that time. So we do see increased calls and increased admissions during this time.
We're joined by Kelli Waite. She's the Director of Admissions and Programs over at the Rose Hill Center, joining us on the MegaCast. And so there are a lot of different mental health facilities and organizations throughout Oakland County, definitely across the state of Michigan. What sets the Rose Hill Center and its services apart from the others?
So Rose Hill has really kind of a unique mission, and that is to get people living independently and living the best life that they can live as quick as possible. So we kind of sit in a little spot where we are just under a hospitalization. So a hospitalization means that you need 24/7 supervision. You may not have your medications working for you in just the right manner, and you need that increased support. And then there's outpatient treatment where you're doing therapy and groups and med management and all of that on your own. We kind of work in the middle. So we're kind of the middle ground. We're a longer term program that can help you learn how to do things like work with your symptoms, go to school with your symptoms, take medication consistently, participate in interpersonal relationships with friends and coworkers in a way that will help you maintain your goals long term. So a lot of times folks who have mental health issues, they can get jobs, they can get accepted into college, but maintaining that long term while they're trying to manage and deal and cope and experience their symptoms of mental health is really hard. And that's kind of where we shine.
We're joined by Kelli Waite. She is the Director of Admissions and Programs at the Rose Hill Center. Kelli, just another couple of minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that you believe would be important for our audience to be considering about seeking mental health services, or anything else that we haven't discussed about the Rose Hill Center and its services today?
The one thing that's important to me is just to reduce the stigma. I feel like if you're experiencing any symptoms, even if you can't quite put your finger on what it is, just to be able to say to somebody like, I'm feeling different than I was before. I'm feeling something that I've never felt before. And even if you are nervous or scared, just find the safest person that you can, whether that's a friend, whether that's a professional, and reach out, because reducing the stigma and encouraging people to get help is just really important.
Well, Kelli, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.